E2 Gender Stratification. Now that we have a better understanding of what prejudice and discrimination are and how they work, let's dive into something that affects all of us to some extent every day: gender and sex. In review, castes are stratified groups in which social mobility is closed through the structures of prejudiced belief and discriminatory action. We also talked about different levels of discrimination, from individual to institutional. Institutional discrimination in the United States closed social mobility for many women in the past. State laws differed, but in many states women lacked the power of suffrage, meaning they could not vote. Being born female meant you could be imprisoned for trying to act on the same right that adult males were guaranteed. Their ascribed status also meant many women could not own property. Their wealth was legally in the hands of their husbands or fathers. If their husband was abusive, they typically lacked the power to divorce him, and physical and sexual violence against wives was largely accepted as a normal or at least as a private issue. Discrimination in the education system meant most colleges had formal norms that did not allow women to earn degrees. Even if they did, few employment opportunities were open to them outside of what has been called pink-collar work deemed appropriate for women. This historical stratification that tended to place females beneath males is the origin of a social movement known as Feminism, which seeks equality between the sexes. First-wave feminism succeeded in gaining basic legal rights for women. Today, an individual woman may have greater wealth than an individual man, but that doesn't mean gender stratification no longer exists. While there is a huge variety of individual wealth, on average, women as a group still earn less for their work. Women working full-time all year are paid about 77 cents for every dollar paid to full-time working men. In Louisiana, it's closer to 66 cents for every dollar, meaning a difference of many thousands less earned by women each year. We'll come back to why this is in a minute, but first, the USA also lags behind other developed nations in female political leadership. Congress is the main legislative branch of government, meaning they make the laws that affect both men and women, but both House and Senate are 80% men, meaning there are 4 times as many men than women, giving them a major advantage in power. As a mostly capitalist nation dominated by corporations, many important economic decisions are also made by corporate boards, but they are even more dominated by men. So is this patriarchy in action? First-wave feminism got women equal legal rights, and second-wave feminism helped end discrimination in schools and businesses. Women today are not only going to school, but since the 70s have actually overtaken men in all levels of college degrees. Yet men still occupy the highest positions in both government and business. We use the term statistically significant to refer to any data pattern that cannot be explained by coincidence, and over 96% domination by men is certainly no accident. But the causes of this pattern are complex. Why do women make less money than men? Part of the reason is the jobs that men and women tend to do. While new laws make it illegal to discriminate in hiring, those laws have only been in effect for a short time. We still see certain careers dominated by women, and others dominated by men. Pay differences between these jobs explain some, but not all, of the 77 cents to $1 gender gap for full-time workers. This raises a few questions. Why do male-dominated fields tend to pay so much more? Is this institutional discrimination based on valuing men's work more, or is it just economics? Since some women do make it into these higher-paying fields, why don't more do so? And why do working-class men so often leave school early to go into dangerous careers? Physically intensive, technological, and financial fields all fit into traditional male gender roles, while jobs involving working with people fit into traditional female gender roles. Both can be limiting, even without formal discrimination, and women also face the expectations of home and motherhood. Imagine a heterosexual couple that meets in law school. They become husband and wife and both graduate at the top of their class, then start their careers at the same time in the same law firm. They decide together to have a baby. Their friends congratulate a new father and ask the new mother what she's going to do about work. This is the point where both biology and cultural roles come in. Unlike most other wealthy countries, the United States does not guarantee paid maternity or paternity leave, nor child care, so one of them will probably need to keep working while the other one may need to stay home for a while. Even if they can disregard cultural pressures, the couple may likely decide that she'll take the time off to recover from birth and breastfeed the new baby. After this motherhood gap of as little as a few months, she returns to a company where her husband may have now surpassed her. When it comes time for a promotion, her boss may assume they'll be having a second child and hesitate to promote her. No one in this particular scenario intends to be sexist, yet she still finds herself at a disadvantage. Many couples are deciding not to have kids these days, and yet motherhood prejudice may remain. The role of wives tend to include household and parental responsibilities, leading to a second shift after their official job is done. While opportunities for women in the workforce have opened up, and there's more expectation of men to share some of the load at home, men are still expected to prioritize paid work, while women are expected to prioritize the unpaid work at home. There are many different ways a man can fulfill traditional masculine roles as the main provider, yet many women feel there are few ways to fulfill modern ideas of a strong, independent, yet nurturing woman. But forcing these roles on men and women is now largely labeled sexism. The 1960s and 70s saw new opportunities and a changing view of what women are capable of. In the 1960s, nearly half the country would not vote a woman for president, no matter how qualified. This was not just sexism on the part of men, but a general cultural prejudice. Today, for the first time, a woman is the official candidate for one of the dominant political parties. Close to 90% of people would say that they vote for a woman if she was qualified and matched their political beliefs. So why do we still need feminism? Isn't it just a matter of individuals making the choice to be socially mobile if they want to? Since the year 2000, there has been a backlash against feminism. Willingness to vote for a female president actually dropped slightly. New media featuring women in the roles once occupied by men have provoked angry reactions from people who think women's rights and roles have gone too far. Modern feminism, the third wave, seeks to explain that reaction and show that we have still not achieved gender equality. It points out that even when men and women do enter the same careers, men on average earn significantly more. The motherhood gap and the extra hours of women take out for other responsibilities explain some of this, but not all. This kind of secondary analysis makes it difficult to get at the root cause of the problem. So to limit other factors and determine whether gender prejudice itself is causing discrimination, Yale University did an experiment, sending out resumes that were identical in every way, except half had common women's names like Jennifer, and the other half had common men's names like John. When they asked employers to rate the job applicants, they found that women's resumes were consistently ranked lower than men's, and discrimination in offered salary came out to nearly $4,000 per year on average. These were not jobs that required muscle power or physical toughness, but jobs in science and technology, where the work itself requires objectivity. Yet sexist bias still creates disadvantage. If you want to know why women make the choices they do for their own lives, and why both men and women are biased by gender prejudice when looking at other people, it helps to look at how they were socialized. We've already seen common trends in the way adults change kids' looking-glass self-image. Remember that anti-sexism laws were only passed a generation ago, so kids have had relatively few role models outside of those traditional gender roles. What does it teach you if the value of the women you see in media is based on their looks and who they marry? If the powerful and violent roles you see are almost entirely men, and the successful women you see have often used their bodies to achieve their status? If half the movies out there can't even get two women on screen talking about something other than a man? It's not that there are no movies out there featuring a balanced cast or strong women, nor that those other films are brainwashing children, but these are just some of the many messages we send that say what matters about men is their skills and hands, and what matters about women is their relationships and bodies. If people in positions of power are mostly heterosexual men, and the first thing they think when they see a woman is what she looks like, then the first thing they think cannot be what she's capable of. Whenever women choose to do just about anything in public view, they most likely will face criticism not just for what they're doing, but how they look while they're doing it.